Welcome to Changing the Channel with Joe Garner, a show about shifting our individual and collective beliefs on what is possible for the future of humanity. As our understanding of how our reality continues to shift, we are at a point of reunification between science and spirituality. What does the world look like when we break free from the generational trauma that has kept most humans playing small for thousands of years and step into our full power as the co-creators of this reality? I always ask that you keep an open mind with this podcast. Ask yourself what resonates with my truth at this time and what does not. Respect your intuition, but see if you can get through the whole show because there might be that little nugget buried deep in the conversation that unlocks something for you.
Welcome back to Changing the Channel. I have a duo today, beautiful connection of souls. It is Brooke Holland and Matt Velasco. They are the co-founders of Rise to Thrive, a movement and community rooted in connection, vitality, and play. Welcome to the show, both of you. Just give us a little background. What was the road to this new movement, this new community? How did it come about? And what is kind of the inspiration behind it? Whoever wants to kind of get started.
You want to start?
Sure. Yeah, well, Matt and I met about a year ago in the desert of Sedona, where we were coming together at camp. And so our meeting was really, we were both in our highest joy. We were both really connected to our inner child. We were playing, we were connecting with community, living off the land, doing men's work, women's work, unity work, all coming together. We were sharing about this to some community, and they called it consciousness camp. So we met at consciousness camp, and it was just an instant connection, and just our two inner childs came together. And yeah, we kind of just really fell in love with one another, or at least I fell in love with Matt right away and knew that we were going to be dancing in this life together. And that's kind of where the spark began.
Yeah, I'll just add that, I think for sure for me, I was on a bit of a solo kind of vision quest, kind of reclamation, reconnection with all things feminine. I was healing from heartbreak, the past 2 years leading up to that. And I was kind of at that tail end of the journey and really letting go and calling in divine partnership. And I was actually at that point where I was like kind of ready to give up on this solo time. I had been traveling for 6 months, all through the United States, but there was something that was calling me forward to be at this camp. I didn't know anybody there. I didn't know fully what it was about. I was just really calling in, partnership and a tribe of really like-minded people that that lead a life of like passion and love. And Brooke was the second person I met at camp. So
Coming in super jolly and jovial and super hyped to be there. And yeah, really, really in both of our elements. And so that's kind of where it all began. And then ultimately we continued traveling together, Matt in his little car and me in my minivan, and another homie of ours in his minivan too. And we ended up in Joshua Tree and went to Arcadia Festival and continued our road trip pretty much. We've only spent 1 month apart since we met and have been living nomadically together ever since.
Wow. So tell me a little bit about, and I'd love to learn a little bit more about the journey that you've experienced. You guys get together, you enter this deep, soul level relationship. What's been the journey to creating something with that partner? How does that felt? What has that been like for you two?
yeah, I mean, do you want to talk a bit about your background and
Well, my background is in nutrition, and I've been guiding holistic health lifestyle transformation since 2020. And I'm always looking to call in more partnerships, more people to guide and support and bring into this world of nutrition and vitality. And so for me in my own personal world, vitality and health has been a pillar since I don't even know how long. I studied nutrition back in the day. I took my first nutrition class in high school. Like, this is something that I've been passionate about for a very long time. And so that's really my world. And everywhere I go, I'm just talking about it because it's really become like who I am and people know me as this person. So it's really, yeah, everyone I meet, the conversation comes up and there's not one human that doesn't really get pulled into my world of health and just being super passionate about what I do. And so yeah, and then meeting Matt, he was kind of in a bit of a transition out of his old business relationship in a sense, if he wants to share about that.
Yeah, it was kind of a closing of a chapter. I mean, I've been in the coaching space for the last almost 8 years now, which is crazy to say. Um, I'm originally an engineer and got out of that in 2017. I've been on this entrepreneurial path and the coaching path since then. Um, but since, I was at the tail end of kind of closing this chapter of partnership, leading men's work specifically, working with men to help them on their healing journey, healing trauma, finding more purpose in their life, elevating their integrity, being more accountable, and having more direction. Um, it's work that's still very passionate to me, but it was kind of just the partnership that I was a part of started to close. We started to go different ways, so I was kind of calling in the next venture, and I've jumped around quite a bit, and always following my sparks of joy and what inspires me. And after meeting Brooke and the connection that we had, and hearing what she was up to, all of a sudden I had all these ideas, and I just can't help but to offer, the things that I see and the opportunities that I see for her business. And then all of a sudden we started to brainstorm how we can come together, and I can bring kind of the coaching lens and the leadership lens with the nutrition background that she has and the expertise in that realm. And I'm like, yeah, we can build an amazing community around these pillars and really make an impact, and start to turn this into more of a kind of a coaching program, one-on-one group, and create a whole movement behind this thing.
The journey to finding myself started with a shift in how I viewed my health. That is why I am proud to partner with Purium, the transformation company. What if you could support your health with a system designed for today's challenges? Purium is more than a supplement company. It's a solution for regenerative health. Their whole food products include the only clinically proven glyphosate detox, helping you eliminate the toxic buildup caused by modern farming. Pair that with Beyond Organic superfoods and the most efficient source of protein on the planet, and you've got a powerhouse combination to build muscle, improve digestion, and fuel your energy levels, all while promoting deeper sleep. Plus, Purium is mission-driven with planetary health in mind. They're proud to lead the way in a plastic-free movement using biodegradable packaging as much as possible. True health freedom starts here. Experience the power of this regenerative healing system for yourself and witness your own transformation take place. You get 60 days to try it, and if you truly don't feel any benefit, you get fully refunded. I have personally been using the daily Core 4 products and have noticed an increase in my energy and the depth of my sleep. Use the link in the descriptions to get started today and receive at least $50 off your first order over $75.
I'm very interested to hear, obviously a little bit more about the pillars, but where do you see this community moving toward? What is the maybe 2 or 3 year goal for the community that Rise for Life Tribe?
Yeah, it's still a little bit of a baby, so we don't even know. It could take on a mind of its own fully. We're really in the process right now of being weavers and being nomadic, where we get to flow and connect in different communities and keep growing our tribe, keep connecting with more holistic health practitioners, people in the wellness space, people that are already showing up, have a community, and start linking arms with people and really being able to create this network of people that are doing the work and really helping to elevate the consciousness of the collective. So, yeah, I mean, things change all the time. We're always evolving and shifting, and I'm not really sure exactly where it's going to go, but we're making moves, and you never know what connection will change, the direction of where we're going.
Yeah, but I mean, just to speculate a little bit, I mean, our pillars being vitality, connection, and play, like we're really passionate about those three pillars, kind of comprising of a thriving lifestyle. And that's really our stand with this movement, and what we're calling in and what our programs are built around is helping people elevate their vitality, both on, like a spiritual, emotional, and on a nutritional front and a physical front. Um, and what that allows for is deeper connections. And if, it makes me think of like the blue zones. If you've studied any of the blue zones, like some of the factors that contribute to living a healthy, long life is community and tribe and connection. Um, and something also I've noticed with the work I've done is how challenging human beings in general have with communicating. And I've been a nerd on communication, and have dove really deep down that rabbit hole on how to be more effective in communication and in relationships. And so I think really empowering people to formulate deeper connections with themselves, with a greater spirit, God, source, whatever you believe in, um, but also with each other, and that leading to, I guess, a more thriving lifestyle, and play being a big component of that. Like Brooke and I really met in and around that energy of play, and that's where we deeply connected. And I think that's often overlooked, is play being a huge contributor um, to living more vitally, to living more in a more thriving way, and to be healthy. If we're playing, like
Fountain of youth, baby, right there.
exactly.
We don't we don't stop playing because we grow old. We grow old because we stop playing. And so, and that's really like the key to being able to transcend the shadow of seriousness that is on our planet right now, is to really be able to play more, to be in joy. That's one of the highest vibrational states we can be in, right? And laughter is like such a potent medicine. So we need more comedy. We've really been going through such a dark night of the soul, it seems like, in the last, I mean, you could say decades,
Yeah.
but really in the last few years, right? And like, where did all the comedy go? It seemed like just crickets. So we're really looking to connect with people to help them find that inner light, that inner child again, to let them be seen, and to really, yeah, let their inhibitions down, and to reconnect to their authenticity. And we don't need to be put in these boxes of what it looks like to be this like responsible adult. Like I'm never gonna stop going to festivals and going to camp. Like we love that. We met at camp. We met on the playground, and we're really, my mantra is like, I'm making my life a festival. It's like, how can I navigate this world and get paid or be rewarded to literally be myself?
Mhm.
And so I think that's what the invitation is to others, is to invite them into that authentic version of themselves so that they can be in their highest joy. And when they're in their highest joy, then they're doing the best work, and then they're becoming magnetic to all the things that they're calling in, and magic happens from there.
Yeah, yeah, I love that. I love the story of you meeting at camp. It sounds like something that I would have said when I was 16 years old, right? I met this beautiful girl at camp, and we've fallen in love, and to do that just last year is such a magical experience. It seemed both of you, it's so much energy between the two of you all. I'd love to see it. And then the idea of play, the idea that I've experienced this on my journey. I wanted to take this podcast and everything that I'm doing, the coaching, all of that, so seriously. I wanted it to be such a serious thing. And it's really in the last couple of months that I've allowed myself to actually play, to really enjoy, to let the conversation be what it is, and not have this hard and fast idea of what it needs to be, or even what the podcast needs to be, or anything that I'm spinning off from that. It doesn't have to be a certain way. Just because 2 or 3 people did it and it was successful doesn't mean it needs to be that way. I need to find the way that I want to do, the fun things that I enjoy sharing with people. That is what the power of like getting in and enjoying your play, and truly being authentic to who you are, who you were before you built up all of these patterns, all of these beliefs, all of these ideas about who you had to be or should be or could be. You came in with this idea that, you're here to just be, to not have all of these expectations about what and who and where you need to be. And to get back to that takes a lot of digging. You got to really dig into those stories, those beliefs. So how does it look to you to be thriving? Like what are some of the things that you're looking for people, and you say when you see somebody doing something and you say, oh wow, that person is thriving. We'll start with Brooke. Like, what does that look like to you? If that's the end goal of your community, what does it look like to be thriving?
Yeah. I mean, this is the question. For me, it's really thriving is really rooted in freedom, like feeling fully free to be my most authentic self and to not be driven by the hormones of stress on the daily basis, and I'm still toying with a lot of these limiting beliefs and self-doubt and the subconscious programming that I'm diving into and having this awareness of how it still is in the driver's seat sometimes of my life. And so really being able to reclaim that driver's seat and acknowledge these parts of myself that aren't, necessarily serving me right now. And really, yeah, loving myself, learning to love myself fully and to notice when I'm not in balance. It's when I'm not doing the things that I really love. So for me, a thriving life is being able to wake up every day inspired, to be able to connect with my loved ones, to be dancing, to be doing the things that make me feel the most alive. And every time I do those things, I feel the magnetism. People can feel that, like I radiate. And so, yeah, it's really been this exploration of how to sustain that. It's not easy because, and then maybe it's not even, we're not meant to be sustaining that 24/7. We need to experience the contrast to get us back on, like get off the horse to get back on the horse. But yeah, really being in thriving health, that's been something that's such a passion of mine because when we're not in a state of thriving health, then how can we really be showing up for our purpose? If we're distracted by our state of dis-ease in the body, then we don't have the energy, we don't have the vitality or the life force to even show up for our loved ones, to show up for our visions and our dreams. So without having our physical body, then living a thriving life is not actually possible. So that's why I feel so, yeah, just passionate about the physical body first, really fortifying that and purifying the body to then be able to purify the mind so that we can expand our consciousness, our awareness, and really connect to what is important to us. Um, so yeah, having a healthy body, being connected to myself, loving myself, doing the things that bring me joy, and yeah, not being controlled by the old programs and the stress that I know permeates so many of us on the daily basis. And that
And then, yeah, Matt, for you, what does it look like to thrive, to be in a thriving state?
Yeah, I mean, it's such a multifaceted thing. Like there's so many different factors, and I think all human beings are doing our very best to balance our lives in a way where we can be at our peak and be thriving. And a couple things beyond freedom. I mean, freedom is a big one for me too. Um, a big one that keeps coming up for me is living in the present moment. So the more present I am, the more like in flow I am, the less in my head, the less distracted, the more of my energy is is brought into this moment. That's where a thriving state is for me. I'm fully present with the people around me. I'm laughing. I'm in that moment, and it just feels ecstatic, right? It's one-on-one in a connection with somebody in a deep conversation, and I'm like fully there with them in their world, listening deeply on so many levels. Like that to me is thriving, and like Brooke touched on, and why we formulated our community around these three pillars is because you got to be healthy on all fronts, in order to be vital and to have the energy to even connect, to listen. Um, so I think that's a really important piece, and there's so much that goes into being present, right? The things that distract us from the moment are, the things, like another word that comes up for me is the word integrity, right? The things that we're out of integrity with in our lives are the things that take us from that present moment. So it could be that thing in our business that we should have done that we didn't do, or, we have insufficient structures in our business to keep track of these things, or, it's that bill that went unpaid, um, or just, you know, avoiding, the things that confront us in life, the things that are triggering. Those are the kinds of things that take us out from the present moment. And I think the more we can have also discipline and accountability for ourselves in our own life, and take full responsibility for those things, and not living in a victim kind of mindset, that's a huge contributing factor to also being in the present moment.
Yeah, I think that definitely speaks through exactly what kind of it is to be in that present moment. And for me, where I am, if I understanding the present moment is that gateway into the subconscious and unconscious. If you're living in the past or the future, if you're living in fear or doubt or shame or even excitement for something that um may or may not come true in the future, you're not living in that present moment. You're not able to see all the signs, all the information that your nervous system is gathering in that present moment. And that's where that being in that present moment, being fully present with where you are, and there's depth to it. I've experienced it, I've been at points where I'm like, this is the deepest I've ever been in the present moment in that flow state. And then the next month it goes even deeper than that. And the next month it's even deeper than that. And the next month it's even deeper than that. And just realizing that, again, there is not necessarily a destination. It's always a journey. You're always kind of venturing in and out. Like you said, you got to fall off the horse to get back onto it. You fall out of the present moment to make sure that you recognize, okay, this is what it feels like to get out of the present moment. I want to be back in that present moment. And obviously, building the structures around you that allow you to be in that present moment is key. You can't just give everything up, go walk on the streets and be in the present moment 24/7. You got to build some structures around yourself. And the beauty of where we are in this evolution of our species is that the ability to build these structures around you is continuing to get easier and easier and easier. You don't have to spend 10 years of your life to build this structure to where you can be in that present moment 24/7. You can spend maybe a couple hours a week to build that structure around you that allows you to be in that present moment 24/7. And it's just going to continue to evolve, and where more and more people become aware because they have the ability to slow down, be in that present moment, do the work on themselves, find out those stories and patterns that they've been living, and get out of that. And I think this is a part of that shift in consciousness that we're experiencing. So I want to kind of dive a little bit into that and what that means to you. What was maybe like the first point where you had an awakening or an epiphany or a realization that the life that you were living wasn't necessarily the life that you're going to continue living. You go through that awakening process. And I think we've Juso on, at least for me, it's been increasing faster and faster and faster. Almost on a monthly basis. It's like, oh, I was here, now I'm here. Now my understanding is even different than it was 3 weeks ago. And that just starts picking up, building momentum, building speed. So for you, what was kind of that journey like, and what is it now? What are the cycles of awakening that you've been experiencing? And to start with Matt on this.
Cool. Yeah, I mean, for me, I touched on, being an engineer by trade. I followed the damn instructions in life, got good grades, went to university, took engineering school, and got a great career right out of university. And then eventually, very quickly, got a sweet, cushy government job as a project manager, like 3 years into my career, and youngest person in my department, working in a cubicle. I could have retired at like 53. I was just locked into that stability, great vacation, pension, all the good stuff. And for me, I was stressed out. I had borderline high blood pressure at the time, fighting in my relationship all the time. Just like not really feeling purposeful, not feeling like the work I was doing was really making a difference. It was highly political, and just like so many factors just had me feeling like really compressed. And that's when I discovered podcasts and started to listen to like Tim Ferriss, and I was like, the 4 Hour Work Week. I read that book and I was like, what? There's like a whole other way. And meanwhile, I was chasing the mountains every weekend, just getting out in nature. That's always where I felt the most free, the most myself, the most present, the most alive. And because that's how I grew up, camping and being in the rustic environment of the forest. And so with all of that going on in my life, if all that stress and compression wasn't enough, it was Christmas of 2016. We found out my father had stage 4 pancreatic cancer. And basically, he was given a prognosis of 6 months to live. And he was 2 years away from retirement at the age of 58. And, it had immediately kind of shattered my world. I was, our family was very close growing up and even into my young adult years. So we had a really great family life, and it was like, okay, now what? Like all of a sudden it started to force my priorities to be put in order. And I had to make a choice. I was like, do I continue to live the way I'm living and scatter my attention with what I have left, for my family and for my father throughout that time? Or do I completely unplug and take a leave of absence from work and move back in with him and really focus on making these next 6 months, the best possible, rich, memorable moments that we can for my family and for him and for myself as well. And that was the choice that I made. And I'm so grateful we did, because we were able to make so many magical things happen in that time. And that's when I found personal development. I was kind of forced into taking charge of these emotions that were coming up in me, and starting to kind of chip away at the shield that I had around my heart and feeling these things. And that opened me right up. And man, if it wasn't for that, I would not have had the personal power to navigate those stressful times. So it was really powerful. My sister and I got to do this work together, and we immediately were kind of spearheading his healthcare. And out of our family, it turned out that the youngest ones who are losing their father were the most grounded and the most anchored and the most kind of like emotionally, I don't want to say mature, but we were, emotionally intelligent, in navigating this, like people, our aunts and uncles are just like kind of crumbling and things like that. And my sister and I were just like, we had so many powerful tools that we were equipped with, and a powerful community um, to help process these kinds of things, and to find clear, aligned action on how we can show up. And so I always attribute that to the kind of that catalyst moment in my life, where it forced me to actually go inward, to actually work on myself, to tell the truth and start to become authentic. I was walking around with this like too cool for school, got it all together, and a lot of the like charisma um and like the looking good, it's like this false sense of looking good, um, was a survival mechanism. And for me, like to start to chip away at that shell and that mask was the most freeing thing I could do. And that just opened up so much in my life. And, inevitably my father passed away almost 6 months to the week, which is, I later discovered how powerful the mind is in that regard, when you plant that kind of seed into somebody's mind. Um, in hindsight, we would have done things a little bit differently, knowing what I know now. But, I emerged from that with an open canvas and a blank slate. And I had to choose, like, do I go back to that life, back to the government and work that job? Or do I step into a whole new realm of possibility? And that was scary because, I had nobody in my family who was an entrepreneur, but I knew I wanted to do my own thing and to make an impact. And I remember this iconic moment in one of my advanced leadership courses where I was like telling everyone I wanted to be an entrepreneur. And they had me at the front of the room in front of, 40 people. And the guy who was running the seminar was like, well, declare it in front of this room of people. Like, I am an entrepreneur. And I was just like trembling up there. Like, I have no evidence for this shit in my life. Okay. So I'm not saying that. Like, I was under the impression I got to gather the evidence and like silently accumulate, this evidence in my life before I could even say such a thing. But through this work, I was discovering the power of language and how a declaration like that, especially in your community of people and putting that idea in the listening of others, is actually the thing that will call forward, the opportunities, the actions, the connections, and the evidence that I was inevitably looking for. And it was really cool that like within a week, people are reaching out to me like, hey, I know this guy who's selling a business and, it's kind of right up your alley. I'd be happy to connect you guys. And I know you're an investor and this and that. And I was like, what? Like things just started rushing in and, there's so much that had happened since then, but I'll leave it there.
Yeah, yeah. I always find that very interesting. There's the declaration to force the conscious mind, or maybe the subconscious, unconscious mind, to be focused on this one outcome or this opportunity or potential for an outcome, and how much that changes what the default mode network is allowing into your awareness, right? Like, you kind of had it backwards at the beginning. It was you find the evidence and then you become the person. Whereas what a lot of people are really starting to understand is you put out the idea of what you want to become, and then you allow it, you attract it, you bring it into you. And there's so many different stories that have gotten into this idea that you don't become who you are by doing the little steps. You become who you are by believing in the ability to do those things, and the little steps come along the way, right? This is the idea of manifestation, or the power of attraction, the law of attraction. Like all these ideas are basically, I think they're putting a beautiful story around what is actually happening, which is that your nervous system starts to see all the things that you've been missing because you've been focused on different tasks, different opportunities, different ideas about where your life is going to go. they've been there the whole time, but you haven't had the conscious awareness of those ideas. And when you declare it, when you put it into this subconscious idea that I am becoming this thing, now it's seeing, okay, here's an opportunity, here's an opportunity, here's an opportunity. You put your subconscious to work on the things that you want it to be working on, and it creates it feels like there is a universe of energy that is flowing behind this thing, when really it's just the power of your intention, the power of your attention, which changes the outcome of your trajectory. It changes the outcome of your.
Are you seeking a path to inner peace and personal transformation? Check out my website, where I offer free weekly guided meditations designed to help you reconnect with your inner self and navigate your day with mindfulness. Whether you're new to meditation or looking to deepen your practice, our sessions provide a supportive space for growth. Join our community today and start your journey towards a more balanced and conscious life. Visit joegarner.net and sign up for our free weekly meditation. Find the link in the show notes.
100%.
Fascinating to see. I love the stories around it. I always enjoy them. But I also like the science behind it as well, with the whole idea that the default mode network, the reticular activating system, these things are completely cutting out 99.5% of your conscious experience. And when you align them with something, when you create that alignment with it in your life, it just starts to attract, or what feels like attracting things, when it's really just noticing the things that were already there. It's beautiful to see. So, Brooke, I'd love to kind of get into, your first awakening as well, give you a little opportunity to share what your path has kind of looked like.
Yeah. Every time I'm asked this question, I can never really pinpoint one moment. Like, I felt like my process has been a little bit more gradual. Yeah, I haven't necessarily had a rock bottom or something crazy that catalyzed my awakening. I was raised in a pretty conscious community as well. A small little town in the Sierra Nevada foothills in California, and I'm sure that that had an influence on me, whether I was aware of it or not. But like I said, I started my path in health at a very young age. I was a dancer. I was dancing since I was 4, very aware of my body. Started studying nutrition in high school, went on to study nutrition in my undergrad. And I went into this program really excited about food as medicine. And my education failed me completely in that regard. And during my time in university, I was really on a clinical path. So I was on the path to becoming a dietitian, which generally work at a hospital. So during my studies, I also ended up getting a job at the hospital and was working as a dietary aide. So I was working under the dietitian and doing all of the patient meals in the hospital. And I saw everything that I needed to see to know that this was not my path. So I did have a pretty big awakening in my university experience. Just the one topic of food as medicine basically wasn't covered in my education. It's a very old paradigm, I'm like, this information's so jaded, in the nutrition world, things are changing constantly. And I just didn't see my work being valuable at all in the hospital setting as a dietitian. And it was just not the environment for healing. And that's really where I wanted to be. And I also worked for a doctor at the time, too. So I was really immersed in the Western medical system. I was also in the worst health of my life while studying nutrition, which is super ironic. Having really gnarly gut pains and almost like this daggering side pain. I was in a spin class and had to leave. And I was like, oh my God, what is happening right now? I went to so many different doctors. Like I said, I was working for a doctor at the time. No one could tell me anything about what was going on with my body. And this is like what I'm studying. And so I was left, yeah, with just not a whole lot of faith in the Western medical system and ended up deciding to not continue my education I was going to go on to do a dietetic internship after I graduated, and I just cut that and was looking into doing something more like the food corps, helping with school gardens, things like that. ultimately, there's a couple stories going on here, but ultimately I decided to just not continue my education. And I went to India instead to go do my yoga teacher training and immerse myself in that world, which my parents were very much against and not really supportive of as a 22-year-old going to India by herself to study the practice of yoga. And on the side note of my gut health journey as well, I went to back when I moved home after school before going to India. I saw my chiropractor at home, and without even saying anything to her about what was going on with the pain in my gut, she was able to feel exactly where it was and tell me, "Oh yeah, that's your ileocecal valve. It's what connects your small intestine to your large intestine." I was eating a lot of popcorn at the time, kind of had to break up with popcorn. That's its own story in itself. I love popcorn. And the fact that she could tell me what was going on with my body without me even expressing anything about it was just profound to me and strengthened my belief around alternative medicines, which really are the original medicine, right? And so I was like, okay, cool. Like I love this. Chiropractic was amazing. That was a big shift for me. My chiropractor was really into the nutrition and the hormones and supporting women, and so that felt really aligned. And yeah, I was kind of toying with studying Ayurveda. Like I said, I went to India and kind of embarked on a deeper spiritual journey. I stopped the partying, the drinking, all of that. I became vegetarian and yeah, really kind of started this journey of more self-exploration and releasing all of like the confines of what I'm supposed to be doing. Going to school, everyone else was graduating and doing nursing school or medical school or whatever it was. And I was out here just being a little free fairy, going to India and just working on myself, learning more about myself. And so I discovered that I love to travel. I don't like being put in boxes. I've never really worked a real like corporate job before. I don't do well working for other people. Or I really just, yeah, started to learn a lot more about myself and how the work that I'm meant to be doing on this planet is really to serve people. And the clinical Western hospital setting was just not it. And so, yeah, fast forward to now, working for myself, working in collaboration with others. I'm really, here to help heal people and people that are really ready to take action and show up for themselves. Like that's what I'm here for.
Beautiful. Yeah. I like that you mentioned you didn't have a rock bottom, but I would say breaking the top
Let's do something.
would have been my rock bottom for
Oh
sure.
yeah, well that was definitely. I had to break up with popcorn a few times in my life. Like we back on right now, but we got to be careful. We got to do it the right way. We're doing stovetop, all organic. None of that microwave BS.
Yeah.
Like yeah, the real deal.
Everything in moderation.
Right.
Well, I love the journeys. I love the stories. I'm curious as to maybe start to look into the future as you're working with clients, as you're building this group, this community. You're starting to see people change their lives. You're starting to see people go through the experience that you've gone through. And it does seem to be radiating throughout a lot of the population. Maybe not, depending on where what you see going on in the world, you might not see that. But on the boots on the ground, like when you're having communications with people, people are shifting the way that they view who they are, what they're here to do, why they're here to what is their purpose in life. And so many people are coming into this idea of higher purpose, finding a purpose more than just getting a good job, retiring, and then figuring out your purpose when you're 65 or 70. So as that starts to happen, the systems on the planet are going to have to shift and change. So I'm curious as to what are your insights? What are your thoughts as far as what does that change start to look like? And maybe you're already seeing it in some of these smaller communities, the communities that you get to visit, throughout the country. Like, what does that future look like for you, kid?
It's a great question. I mean, we just got back from being a part of kind of more of an intentional community a group of people that came together around the intention of stewarding some land and growing their own food and living a more alternative way of coming together. They're not blood, they're not family on that regard, but they, relate to themselves as a family, and they're doing some amazing things. So being a part of something like that for a week and a half, and getting to witness how they've divvied up accountabilities and responsibilities based on their unique skill set or their unique gifts or their unique passion. It's like they really work with the philosophy that like people shouldn't be doing the things that they absolutely hate. Like it's kind of shifting the paradigm of distributing responsibilities, not so everybody has their hand evenly in absolutely everything, but really finding everybody's zone of genius and looking at it as a valuable contribution to the collective of this farm and what they're trying to do. And I think that's a really cool way to look at the world. If everybody was doing what they absolutely love and what lights their soul on fire, and is that what they're great at, I think a world like that would be a thriving world. Like it starts at a small community level, whether it's in a business or in a project or in a small community, intentional living community like that. But that can be expanded out, I think, on a collective level.
Yeah, I think that's interesting because, the founding of America was kind of based on that. It was going from the English hierarchy of systems and how they'd been doing it for for 300 years, maybe a fact. And then taking that and bringing it over here, and it's like, all right, we're going to have these small farmsteads. We're going to have these states that organize themselves. We're going to have a group of states, and we'll call that, the Confederate or the Republic. And then it became what it has become. So it's almost as if we're going back to that state, and how it's interesting that in this iteration of that return to those values, that there's no more land on the planet to go do that with, right? We can't go move to Panama or Mexico or somewhere else where there isn't this established rule. So this is the new challenge that we have. How do we create this shift or this change or this kind of return to these, like you said, everybody's doing what they're here to be doing, while, there isn't necessarily like this gigantic area where we can continue to do that. And then how do we make this into, like a global situation? That's always the question for Nate. We're moving from what was these national, with a nationalistic perspective. So you had your country, that was the big thing that you encompassed, and then maybe you had a smaller community like a state, and then you had a smaller community like a county, and then they kind of went down. Now we're I think we've seen the extent to which the state is functional, and now we're moving into something different. So it's where we are now is it's more like the corporations are the ones that we're putting our trust in to build the structures for this global society that we're moving toward. Or you could talk about, multinational corporations or for organizations like the WF. But how can we use that structure that already exists to kind of get us into this place where everybody is doing that? And obviously technology is going to be a key in that, but what does that kind of look like to you at this point?
Yeah, it's tricky. Because I feel like there's definitely a split happening. It's like this old world, the corporations, the Western systems that are in place, the educational systems, the hospital systems, that we see are not functioning anymore. And then there's the people that acknowledge that and see that they're not serving humanity, that they're not serving us for the benefit of all beings here on this planet. And so the people that are seeing that rather than like going against and fighting these systems are having to create the new. And that's where we're putting our energy and attention is rather than trying to take down these monsters that just isn't realistic. Like, you guys do your thing. Whoever wants to stay and be a part of that system, cool. Like, by all means, do what feels best for you. But for those that see the flaws in that are ready to come together, and it is more of a grassroots thing. I mean, the technology has been amazing for connecting us globally and being able to share ideas and um, thoughts and resources and who's doing what here, how is this community being built. But really, it's passionate humans coming together and sharing their skills and creating alternative educational systems. That's not training our children and brainwashing them. And being able to really, yeah, return back to living with the rhythm of nature is really what we're being asked of. And something that's super important is returning to the land, is stewarding the land. Because right now, how things are going with monocrop chemical farming, I like to call it our frankenfood system. We only have about 50 to 60 cycles of soil left. And it's like when that is gone, humanity perishes. Right. So it's like, okay, now we're gathering back to the land to regenerate her. And that's like a really big mission of ours is the education around that and being able to use technology, right, to spread that and to bring real solutions to these big problems that we face. So I think we all have our own niche, of course, like we all have our own expertise in whatever it is that we do and coming together and really being able to live that, to embody that, to teach that. Like that's where that, like the individuality like shines and then we come together in community and all can play a part in this puzzle, but it really is creating the new. And I don't know how that looks fully with technology. I mean, it's such a double-edged sword, right? We're moving, it's like we're going back to these ancient practices, but now we're in this new world with all this technology. So how can we use the technology for good to like get us back into the rhythm of nature, but while also like, yo, we are becoming more advanced. So like let's use this to our advantage. I don't really know. I'm not in the technology world. Like my thing is like food and nutrition and growing plants and things like that and being an advocate for that because that's like if we don't have food, then sorry, no one really exists. So let's focus on that. I mean, that's where I'm, putting more of my energy and time and whatnot. But yeah, that's kind of where I see things as much as I can, you know.
Yeah, I feel like it's not like you mentioned, it's not taking on the existing paradigm in like a forceful, direct, conflicting way, but actually we're just over here building this new paradigm from the grass roots, small growing and expanding and I feel that it's gonna start kind of disrupting this whole like globalist kind of mentality and get back to how humanity was thriving based on how our ancestors lived, which was in smaller tribes, and it's gonna go back to that way of operating, having smaller communities, raise children, not being so isolated. It's like this is my direct family of four, but actually having a community that offers so many unique perspectives and wisdom and skill sets and having children grow up in that kind of environment. Um, and then I see that again expanding again and growing with what's working and what's having human beings thrive in that is going to naturally expand and grow. And with that, I mean, it makes me think of a book called The Fourth Turning. I forget who the author is, but that really like expanded my mind that humanity's constantly repeating these patterns in these seasons over 80-year cycles. They go through 4 different seasons of approximately 20 years. And we're kind of in the middle to back half of a crisis, which they called the fourth turning is the crisis era. And with that crisis, there's a crumbling and kind of burning things down to ash, and that's, can be frightening and scary. And it's going to get a little bit more intense. It's going to get a lot hotter, metaphorically speaking. But with that, there's hope that outside of, emerging from the crisis is opportunity. And there's going to be a huge thriving era that comes from that.
Yeah, I think that's beautiful that so your evolutionary story started with the crisis, and this is the collective perspective. This is the collective crisis that we're experiencing. And for some of us, my journey included, the crisis was the start of the awakening process. And this is, again, the crisis of everything that we're experiencing. Again, food is just one of the crises that we have on the planet right now. Obviously, temperature, weather variation, this unlocking of a technology that we don't fully understand, which is AGI, or at least AI at this point. And, we don't really know what happens when AGI gets unleashed on the planet, what it's going to do. Yeah, that's 3 crises, and there are probably several more that I'm not bringing up. But in those crises, this is where the rebirth process happens for a lot of human beings. And why wouldn't it be the same for a collective, for the totality of this planet? We're going through these crises, and on the other end, as long as you have faith, as long as you're able to not focus too much on the crisis that is happening, but on the positives that are coming out of that crisis, that the new systems that are being born, the new ideas that are being birthed into existence, then you can keep your nervous system, you can keep your ability to stay in the present moment there. But if you allow yourself to focus on these crises, and I see it with so many people, they're so focused on the crisis that they go into this fight or flight. They go into this state where they cannot be in that present moment anymore. They're only focused on what's going to happen in the future, or why did all this bad stuff happen in the past at a collective level. Again, I think this is a process of going from these small communities to everybody having access to the entire information of the world. They have to kind of go through this process where what they thought was everything that was their life is now expanded into, these global crises that people have been aware of. Again, what some people call the elite, or the people that have been building and running the societies. They've been aware of these crises for a long, long time, and they hit them for we don't know exactly why they hit them. I prefer to think of them as they hit them because they didn't think we'd be able to handle the truth, not because they wanted us to go down that route, but they just weren't sure what would happen if they unleashed these truths on a group of beings that weren't ready for that information. But at the end of the day, you're just kicking the can down the road. And if you're not helping people get to that point of understanding, if you're not helping them become aware of the crises that are on the planet, you're just setting yourself up for a catastrophe, for the sinking ship to explode. Instead of it going down slow, it just erupts into a mass of confusion, and who knows what would happen if we really go down. So this is why I'm kind of so focused on getting this information, getting new perspectives, getting people aware of the stories that they're telling themselves aren't necessarily the whole truth, that there is an entire universe out there that exists that they can tune into, they can focus their energy on, they can be aware of all these ideas, but it doesn't have to rule the world, doesn't have to teach or force them down a certain perspective or a certain habit. Like, we have the option to create our own reality as long as we have the ability to be in that present moment, to stay in that flow state, to think from a different level that created the problem that we've been, we've inherited or we created ourselves, or again, however you want to conceptualize it.
Yeah, it's beautifully said. And with what you mentioned about, staying in the present moment in the face of the chaos and the crisis that's happening, like, that starts on such a individual level. How do you manage stress and, anxiety and minor crises that come up in your day to day? Like, it starts with those simple tools and practices and finding ways to regulate your nervous system, to be able to be present with it, observe it, not be swept away by it,
Mm.
and being able to consciously respond to situations, where you're in the driver's seat and, you're taking action, aligned action from there. It starts with that, because if you can't do that for yourself, like, how is the collective going to come together and do that? That's a joint effort of, a, a group of people that have the ability to do that for themselves at an individual level. So I love how you brought that up, because some people, when they're thinking at a global level, it's like, well, what the hell am I supposed to do? How the heck am I supposed to contribute to this? How can I make a difference? It's like, that's where you can make a difference, is start to do it little by little in your own life, um, at an individual level.
Yeah, that's the quote I always say, like, collective transformation begins on the individual level. It's like we can't see like, it's like, who am I to solve this huge, massive problem? Like, we can get so overwhelmed with the big crises that it leaves us feeling completely complacent, right? And it's like, okay, well, how can I, just take on the little things in my life? And then it just follow the breadcrumbs and all the little baby steps. And that's where we're here to guide people. It's like, okay, you don't need to do it all yourself. Like, this is not a one-man job. And coming together and leaning on community and sharing tools, and, you help with the meditation and the mind and the nervous system. It's like, we've got the vitality, the nutrition piece. It's like, who can we all call upon so that we can address the whole and really be a team in this, and know that we don't have to do it all alone, that we have the support that we need, and to learn to ask for help, and to know that we don't have to do it completely by ourselves.
Beautiful. Very well said. Well, this has been another enlightening conversation. I really enjoyed where we went, to hear your two stories, to understand, this beautiful coming together. I'd love to see how that all unfolds, and then for you two to be working on this and building into this group, again, rising to thrive. It's such a beautiful name, and the idea of thriving just resonates so deeply with me. I want to thrive in my life as well. So, for those who are listening, how can they get a hold of you? How can they start the process of, if somebody's in this process of looking to thrive, how do they reach out to you and become a part of the community?
Yeah, I'd say the best way for people who are interested in plugging in is connect with us on Instagram. I'm at the Adventure Engineer on Instagram.
And I'm Sunbeam _ Brookie, BROOKIE. And then we just created our new collective Instagram. It's a baby Instagram, so if you want to follow that, it's at Rise to the number 2 Thrive Tribe.
And reach out to us. I mean, if you've got questions or you want to inquire further of what it looks like to work with us, or to explore, the community in a deeper way, just send us a DM, and yeah, we'd love to chat with you.
Love it. I'll make sure I include all that in the show notes. So if you're looking to connect with Matt, Brooke, both of them, make sure you check out the show notes and give them a follow, give them a like, give them a comment, and definitely reach out to their inbox and see what can flow through these connections from all across the world, because that's what it is. This is the web of connection that I think we're building amongst all of us, and it's beautiful to see. So really appreciate you all coming on the show today, and I hope you have a great rest of your evening.
All right.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
Appreciate you, Joe.
Thank you again for listening to Changing the Channel with Joe Garner. If you enjoyed the show, please follow the podcast, hit the bell to know when a new show comes out, share with a friend, and rate us on whatever platform you're tuning in from. It helps get these messages out to more people to create the collective shift in reality we are here to experience. Make sure you interact with the Q&A and poll sections of the show so I can continue to provide content you enjoy. Finally, check out my website in the show notes to become a VIP of Changing the Channel and join the shift that is happening.